I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hello, and welcome to Cherokee Public Schools' virtual Veterans Day celebration. As many other things in 2020, we are taking a different approach to our program this year.
In order to maximize the safety and health of our veterans, teachers, students, and the community, we have made this video in honor of our veterans.
That way our veterans and families can watch from the comfort of their homes and our student body can watch from their class.
So on behalf of Cherokee Public Schools, we hope you enjoy this presentation.
The Smithsonian Museum of American History lists this statue, which sits on the Alfalfa County Courthouse lawn, as one of 179 sculptures of E.M. Visquini's Spirit of the American Doughboy.
Erected in the early 1920s and 30s, the statue represents a World War I U.S. infantry soldier striding confidently through broken tree trunks strung with barbed wire, rifle in his left hand and grenade held aloft in his right.
Although nobody knows the reason why soldiers were called doughboys, one theory is that the Red Cross often handed out doughboys as precursors to the donut to men on the front lines. These treats were obviously popular with the troops, and thus, perhaps, doughboys became a thing.
But the fact that this active, courageous, forward-moving image has become an iconic representation of an American soldier in World War I and can be found on municipal properties throughout the United States tells a lot about these young soldiers and the country that sent them to defend freedom.
It's particularly appropriate on Veterans Day to spend some time in the company of this hero because he is what Veterans Day is all about.
Veterans Day began as Armistice Day, a celebration of the end of World War I, which occurred when German and Allied officials met in Paris to sign an armistice ending the fighting. The agreement determined that 11 a.m. Paris time would be the moment the truce would begin, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. In his 1919 presidential proclamation, President Woodrow Wilson stated that,
To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations.
Later, in 1938, Congress made it official that every November 11th, the United States would recognize Armistice Day. And finally, in 1954, the United States government changed the name of the holiday to Veterans Day. It would honor all of America's veterans. Eisenhower proclaimed that,
In order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in the common purpose.
And from then on, Americans of all political parties, races, creeds, and religions have come together to honor those who fought to ensure our freedoms.
This table, set 4-1, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone.
The tablecloth is white,
symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. black napkin represents the sorrow of captivity. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood that many have shed.
To ensure the freedom of the United States of America.
This rose reminds us of friends and family, of our missing comrades who keeps the faith, awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents the yellow ribbon worn on the lapels of 1,000.
We demand a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us tonight.
The slice of lemon on the plate remind us the bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us
of the countless volunteers as the families wait.
The glass is inverted because they cannot toast with us. The chair is empty because they're not here. Candles reminiscent of the light of hope
that lives in our hearts to illuminate the way home.
away from their captors into the arms of a grateful nation. When I lay my head down every night and go to sleep in peace, I can stay there knowing all is well while you're standing on your feet. Keeping watch, protecting shore to shore in the air and oceans too, defending freedom at all costs for the red, the white, and blue. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong, to those who serve so gallantly. We sing this grateful song to the soldiers who have traveled on to countries far and near. In peace and war you paid the price for the cause you hold so dear, that we may wake each morning bright and know that freedom rings because of your great sacrifice. Your country joins to sing. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong, to those who serve so gallantly. We sing this grateful song. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong, to those who serve so gallantly. We sing this grateful song. To those who serve so gallantly, we sing this grateful song.
Dear Sarah, the indications are very strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. And lest I should not be able to write you again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I am no more. I have no misgivings about or lack of confidence in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how American civilization now leans upon the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and suffering of the Revolution. And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain this government and pay that debt. Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing can break. And yet my love of country comes over me like a strong wind and bears me irresistibly with all those chains to the battlefield. The memory of all the blissful moments I have enjoyed with you come crowding over me, and I feel most deeply grateful to God and you that I have enjoyed them for so long, and how hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes with the hope in the future years, when God willing we might still have lived and loved together, and see our boys grown up to honorable manhood around us. If I do not return, Sarah, my dear Sarah, never forget how much I loved you, nor that when my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it will whisper your name. Forgive my many faults and the many pains I have caused you. How thoughtless, how foolish I have been sometimes.
There are not words big enough.
There is not a hug strong enough.
There is not a smile wide enough. All I can offer is thank you.
You are my hero.
You are in my thoughts. You are in my prayers.
For all you have done, thank you.
TJ Allison, E4, Oklahoma National Guard.
Matt Vlad, Sergeant, Army.
John Bellamy, Staff Sergeant, Air Force.
Ronald McMurtry, Sergeant, 45th Infantry Division, National Guard.
Keith Smith, Sergeant, Marine Corps.
Harold Scott, E3, Army Rangers.
Brian Mitchell, Captain, Oklahoma National Guard.
Ken Gertie, Senior Master Sergeant, Air Force Pilot.
David Cullen, Sergeant, Air Force.
Brandon Wright, Senior Airman, Air Force.
Jim Hadwiger, Corporal, Army.
Dorsey Red, 3rd Class Petty Officer, Navy. David Blake, E5, Army.
Kendall Argenbright, E3, Oklahoma National Guard.
Jim Warner, Lieutenant Colonel, Army.
Malachi Claflin, Sergeant, Army, Airborne, and Sniper.
Christopher McNeil, Private First Class, E4, Army, currently serving.
Monty Smith, E4, Navy.
Mark Skinner, Sergeant, Army, National Guard.
Glenn Oyster, Sergeant, Oklahoma National Guard and Marine Corps.
Bonnie Guffey, Sergeant, Army.
Jack Custer, Military Police, Air Force.
Stacy Wright, Senior Airman, Air Force.
Tristan Hall, Hospital Corpsman, 3rd Class, Navy.
Curtis Robinson, E3, Army. Melvin Link, Staff Sergeant, Army.
Donald Wessels, Specialist 5, Army.
Lloyd Klepper, Technician, 5th Class, Army. John Patton, Sergeant, Air Force.
Amy Guffey, E2, Navy.
John Dyken, Sergeant, Army.
Dennis Hattlestead, Specialist 4, Army.
Joe Salinas, 1st Class Sergeant, Army. Mark McDonald, Specialist, Army.
Clayton Weavy, Sergeant, Army.
Mark Ream, Corporal, E4, Marine Corps. Gary Bassett, E5, Navy.
Gary Whiteley, Sergeant, 1st Class, Army.
Tim Kaufman, Lieutenant Colonel, Army.
Ryan McNeil, Specialist E4, Army.
Lloyd Stout, Deckhand, Merchant Marines. Paul Jackson, E5, Army.
Alan Smith, E6, Navy.
Gerald Poe, Private, 1st Class 3, Army.
Mark Guffey, Petty Officer, 1st Class, Navy.
Jennifer Evans, Private 4, Army.
Colby Wyatt, Colonel, Army, Purple Heart recipient.
Larry Harris, Senior, Chief Petty Officer, Navy.
Bevy Salinas, Staff Sergeant, E6, Oklahoma National Guard. Michael Jones, Sergeant, Marine Corps.
Vincent Beal, Sergeant, Army.
George Whitesides, Lance Corporal, Marine Corps.
Wesley Creasley, Sergeant, 1st Class, E7, Army.
Anthony Merrill, Specialist, Oklahoma National Guard.
Steve Thompson, 2nd Class, Petty Officer, Navy.
Earl Smith, Sergeant, 1st Class, Army.
Kevin Poe, Sergeant, Army Airborne Paratrooper.
Wayne Guffey, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Marine Corps and Army.
Roy Everingham, Sergeant, Air Force.
William Yandel, E4, Army.
Lon Hawkins, Lieutenant Commander, Navy Pilot.
Daryl Schroeder, E4, Navy. Phil Cozy, Technical Sergeant, Air Force.
George Hargard, Army.